that was all Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, mid-modern. I mean, it was a six-figure deal for us. So you can imagine what the resale value of that would be.
So, guys, welcome back, and thank you for joining us again for another edition of the Business of Ball Cards. And I'm here with a couple of hobby legends, local hobby legends, and I'm proud to say they're my friends too. And they were good enough to come on here, and we're with Bart and Tony Howell. And so we'll just get started. We're just going to go through some questions and learn a little bit about them, learn a little bit about their business, and see if it impacts your life and as much as it's impacted mine. So we'll jump in here, and guys, we'll just get started with very basic questions. Tell us about your guys' collector experience in the past and how you got maybe into the hobby or the actual industry.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, really, we came roundabout way to sports cards. We started collecting comics probably 1970, 1971, and literally had a very nice comic collection that we probably sold in 1986, 1987. But we started buying sports cards in probably 75, and we bought football cards just like most kids. We were kids, 11 or 12 years old. And then we would go from that point, to try and put together sets like everybody else at that point.
Mhm.
And then we would buy baseball. We would buy basketball because we were big basketball fans also as kids growing up. But we didn't set up at our first show till 1980. And that was a comic show that also had sports cards. It was from a shop in the South End called Spider's Web. And the show was at the Ramada Inn on Bryce Road. Rob, that should be pretty familiar to you
Yeah.
because you did shows there also, much, much later.
Yeah, it was much more ran
And
down
from
by the
that,
time I was there.
Yeah.
yes, 100%. But we done that. Then we transitioned to the Veterans Memorial Show that was run by A&B Coin. I mean, and obviously that went through numerous promoters. And, we just went from there, and we've been buying cards. We started buying vending cases of cards in 1980. We would put together sets and we would sell the sets, and that's, make a little bit of money.
Mhm.
And then we would just transfer that money over, and eventually that turned into singles. And probably around 1986, 1987, one of our friends moved to Hattiesburg, Mississippi. He opened up a small junk shop, is what I would call it more than anything, like a resale area.
Mhm.
But we went down there and we traded him a bunch of comics for a bunch of sports cards. So they were 54s, 55s, 56s, 57s, all the stars, all the rookies. And we brought those back here and we sold them, and we've been doing it ever since then.
So the cool part about it is we bought vending cases in the 80s, like 81, 82, 83, 84. We can remember buying 84 vending cases for $100. We would buy wax cases for $75, $80.
Mhm.
In 86, we probably opened 8, 10 cases of 86 Fleer basketball. And then I
Oh,
don't even
wow.
know how many loose boxes. At one time, we sold 50 sets to a guy in Atlanta with Jordans for
Wow.
like, I want to say they were like $15 a set or $20 a set, right? And that's the whole set with Jordan and everybody, stickers and all, right? So,
Yeah,
Stickers and all, everything.
yeah. So
that's great.
we were back when Star was popular, we were big into Star Company. We were getting cases of Star Company, so we sold a lot of, we sold Bull sets, but we also sold a lot of Celtic sets and Lakers. Through the 80s, we just kind of did the show scene where we were going around to the malls. We were doing, the local big shows so much like Vets and Shriners Temple, places like that into the early 90s. We transitioned to the National in 99. So that was we'd been to the National prior, but we set up our first time in 1999. And we've been doing it ever since. Through the early 2000s, one of our greatest friends, Jake Johnson, we used to share space together all the time because we were like brothers, and we would travel together. But so one year he'd get the booth, next year I'd get the booth, another year he'd get the booth, next year we'd get the booth. So then, so our priority is only like 22, but we've been doing it for ever. That's kind of the show that we stock up for. So a lot of guys see us at the local shows. Like this weekend, we were in Newark to see Don Jones, right? We had a choice between coming to Chillicothe and seeing you, or going to Newark, which is right by our house, and seeing Don. So we bought some really great cards at that show. Very hard to get cards. We do search out mid-modern. So we're trying to we really like dealing in the mid 90s to early 2000s. Inserts, kind of rare stuff. If you think of like precious metal gems, credentials, numbered inserts, things like that. So that's kind of where we put our sweet spot at. But that's kind of history of us.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. So you guys mentioned, I'm just going to ask for clarification on one thing. You guys mentioned vending cases a couple times. And for those, who have only been in the hobby even 15, 20 years, they may not know what those are. Could you describe what that is really quickly?
So you'd buy a case and it was all cards, and out of that, a vending case. What could we get, Tony?
No packs.
No packs.
There were
it was
no
just
packs.
cards in boxes. How many sets would we get? 20?
No. Out of a tops vending, you'd get 13, maybe 14 sets of baseball and about 24 sets of football.
So you'd get, and basically they were not sequentially numbered. So it wasn't like you could just pick out a box and it was 1 through 200. It was still randomized in some way, right? But you could get all of the stars, all the rookies, and it allowed you to put these sets together. I mean, I remember setting up shows where we didn't sell a card over $1, and that would be like a rookie guy or maybe even a Hall of Famer back then. So the hobby's really transitioned a lot away from that market to where we are now.
Yeah.
Well, in some ways it has, in some ways it hasn't, because even still yet, I mean, back then people were chasing rookie cards, and still yet today they're chasing rookie cards.
Yes. Yeah, I remember like what you guys are saying. Like I remember setting up at a local flea market in the late, probably mid 90s, probably actually, maybe early 90s actually. And it would be like I'd have a quarter section and a 35-cent section and like a 75-cent section. It was like, but now, that kind of thing's kind of a thing of the past. So you guys again have been in the hobby for a long time, and just to give my own personal like thoughts about you guys or feelings since I've been in the hobby, in Central Ohio, there were uh, two groups of people. Well, there was Thomas Fisher and there were you guys. And in the local Central Ohio market for if you go back 15 or 20 years, if we talked about big buyers, I mean, you guys were, some of the guys for me that came to mind for sure. And you guys are well known for supporting, the local shows. And of course, we all appreciate that. All of us that promote shows and all of us that go and set up at shows. But you've been in it for a long time. So what are some of the biggest shifts you've seen in the hobby or changes you've seen in the hobby? And, you can go as far back as you want, or if you want to focus on, around COVID forward, it's totally up to you guys. But what are some of the biggest shifts you've seen?
I think for me, it's the denomination of transaction has changed. It's still transactional business, right? I mean, back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, we were dealing in dollars, tens and 20s, right? Now you're dealing in hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands in a similar market. So if you remember the rise of cards in the 90s and then the boom bust era, there was a lot of cards that had a lot of value, and then all of a sudden they just lost all their value. You think of a Jose Canseco 86 Don Russ. That card used to sell all day long for $100. $100, $100, $100. Now people have them in their $5 box and they don't even sell them. Right. So we buy ultra modern because the market is the way it is, but we don't have any confidence in it. We're not buying it thinking 10 years from now it's going to be worth 10 times. It's a transaction business for us where we're buying it, and we're going to try to sell it within a certain period of time, and we very seldom hold those cards for like the national every year. The cards we're holding for the national are more staple cards, that we don't think is going to lose value over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But I think it's more denominational for me. So now, the money's just went up, right?
Yeah.
You can't go wrong with blue chips in our hobby. I mean, you go with the blue chips, you go with the Jordans, the Brady's, LeBron. You just can't go wrong with the best guys ever, the vintage Hall of Famers in baseball. I think the biggest change for me that I can recollect is probably grading. I mean, as crazy as the thought sounds, because it's really just a third party's arbitrary opinion of how great a card is.
Yeah.
But our hobby has really embraced it. So I mean, it is what it is, So my opinion means a lot less there. But I mean, it's just insane the value that's added to a card that grades as a PSA 10 and how it devalues a card that's a PSA 8.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd almost rather have something ungraded than a PSA 8 for most cards.
Yeah, and on the grading news, with PSA suspending their bulk grading, I went online and told people that I think it's a marketing ploy. They want this big surge of business. So over the weekend, there were 10 million cards behind before this. Over the weekend, they received over 2.5 million submissions in one weekend. A quarter of what they had in backlog, right? So what they were touting, they're trying to reduce backlog by doing this suspension. But they generated 2.5 million submissions in 3 or 4 days. So to me, I mean, you're in the market. You have to buy PSA. If you're buying and selling cards, you don't necessarily have to do grading if you don't want to. We very limit our grading now in comparison to what we did before COVID. But it's still not selective to the point where, I'm not sending a Wemby rookie to be graded. I'm sending a Jordan card though, or a Kobe card, but I'm not sending a Wemby rookie unless it's really high end. Yeah, and then I want it in some type of authenticated slab. So,
yeah, I got you. So you guys,
I disagree with that. I do think that their backlog is very high, and they're trying to reduce it because they have lead times that they say that they want to adhere to, and those lead times have just gotten to been astronomical. When you look at bulk grading, you're probably over a year to get your bulk graded cards back.
Yep.
So, I mean, they had to do something to try to reduce those times. The express rating that, roughly $200 a card, that they tell you it's going to be back in 7 business days, 5 business days, is 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, I do feel like they had to try to do something, and maybe this is the answer for them.
Okay. You guys mentioned already that you guys are regulars at the National. I know you're regulars at a few local shows as far as visiting. You're a regular at the Columbus Sports Card Show, which is
Yep.
actually at the in Hilliard at the Franklin County Fairgrounds. But as far as the National, I know that's your big push. That's what you're kind of buying up for. That's what you're looking for. So, do you guys have any memorable moments from the National?
I mean,
we have stories we can't tell you, Rob, but they would never go here online.
Right.
But for the most part, we are so busy
yeah.
that yeah, I mean, it's great seeing the superstars. I mean, Bart has a great Trish Stratus story he could
I'll
tell
tell you
you
in
that's pretty
person
funny,
sometime.
you know.
Mhm.
Yeah. You know, and we just, like I said, we have a lot of very R-rated stories that we could tell, but we're not. We're just really so busy. I mean, literally, we go to sleep from exhaustion, at 1 or 2 in the morning after staying up and pricing cards,
Yeah.
Yes,
to try to
our
get ready
morning
for the
starts
next
about
day.
6 or 7 every
Uh-huh.
day. And we're in the door as soon as when they open so we can get our booth ready to go for the day. We have 2 booths and now we used to have 4. And we've kind of scaled it back as we've gotten older. And as the national was kind of asking for more space for new dealers, and me being an old dealer and I like to be a team player, me and Tony were old, and we said we can peel back a little bit, right? So that square footage is very valuable to us, and we've never sold it. We've always used our square footage, and with our people and everybody. We have some great people that go to the national with us. Adam Musselman, one of your customers, he
Yeah.
works with us every year at the national, selling and restocking. He's our number one employee, but he doesn't get
Oh,
paid. He's just there hanging out. He doesn't sell cards for the zone. He only sells cards for us. And then Tony's 2 sons go with us now, and they're our arms and legs for carrying stuff around for the most part. But all the transactions happen between me and Tony. We're the ones that's pulling the cards out, and people are out making offers, or we're buying all across the table. So it's a really busy week for us as far as that goes. And no lie, I get in bed at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning because everybody will be passed out on the floor, and I'll still be sitting there on my laptop trying to figure out to get these last 50 cards priced that we bought today, so we can get them back in the showcases tomorrow. So yeah, so
yeah.
it's a good time. Good times.
Yeah. That sounds crazy. So I'll ask you a question about the national,
Mhm.
and this is about sales. Often, I will kind of mention to people, and this is from the wax perspective, the shop owner perspective, I guess. COVID was it was a terrible time for the United States of America, but for this hobby, facing reality, it was a good time. There was a lot of money that came in this hobby, and I had a very good 2020. Okay, 2021. 22 and 23, I didn't feel was very good, and then I feel like there's another wave that kinda hit late 2024. Did you guys experience a lack of sales or less sales, in 22, 23 at the National, or has it been pretty consistent there?
It's been pretty consistent for us. I mean, our market is we sell from basically a quarter all the way up. I mean, we'll have cards in the showcase that are $5,000, $10,000, but really our market's $500 and under is really our sweet spots, right? So
Yeah.
we keep our prices at Midwest pricing. So we're not pricing up for the national like a lot of dealers do. So they'll price up 20, 30% above their local pricing, because they want that negotiating room, or there's just more money in the room overall. So we tend to transact a lot of cards during that time, both showcase cards and value boxes, dollar boxes, quarter boxes. An example would be like last year, on Thursday, we had to pull 4 showcases off the table because we could not backfill them. We had sold that many cards and backfilled that much. So we had to take
Wow.
3 or 4 that day. But by the end of the weekend, we were down to like 8 or 9 showcases. So, which
Mhm,
is unusual for us at the National. We're normally 16 showcases to 25 showcases, somewhere's in that range. Um,
mhm,
and again, we're very actively buying those types of cards every week. We
mhm.
sell some of them, but we don't sell a lot. We only sell on eBay enough to keep our top rated seller. And then kind of when we hit
Okay.
that our threshold to keep top rated seller, we kind of pull down a little bit. And then
Mhm.
next month we'll go back and we'll put a few more up and we'll try to sell again till we hit that, and then we'll pull down again, just to keep that status rating. But yeah, I mean, I don't think we saw a dip because the market we sell in, when we came out of COVID, we were lucky enough to acquire a local collection that was all Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, mid-modern. I mean, it was a six-figure deal for us. So you can imagine what the resale value of that would be. Tons of work though. I mean, we're not even through all the boxes yet. We're still going through boxes, trying to get through that. And what was that? 18, 19? What year was that? 2020?
No,
Yeah, probably about 20, right? 4 or
3
5
years ago.
years at
Oh, it was
least. You've
3 years
had
ago
those
that we
No,
bought
boats.
it.
three. It was 3 years ago that we bought it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So we've still been sorting through and stuff. But our stuff's kind of, I like to tell people what I try to buy is recession proof. You know what I mean?
Okay.
We're not buying the silver prism that there's 27,000 of them graded PSA 10, right?
But we are buying them, but we're not actively looking
Right.
for them.
We buy. I mean, we
Yeah.
buy anything.
That's the big thing. We buy anything if we think there's enough value
Right.
there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But we're not speculating.
Yeah.
I mean, we bought at one
And
point. We bought a card shop out that in Lancaster, filled my garage from front to back, top to bottom, all commons from the 80s. So
well,
with the testament, we will buy anything. We will buy anything, as long as it seems like it's a reasonable deal.
yeah, and one of the, this will go out to a wider audience, but if you are local in Central Ohio, you guys, every time and it's about bi-monthly, every time the Columbus Card Show comes around at the Franklin County Fairgrounds in Hilliard, you guys set up there mainly for the purpose of buying.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
correct?
Yeah,
Yep.
we're in the first row.
Yes.
So
Yep.
if people are looking for us, we're in the very first row. If the promoters are right in, you come in the door, and if you go down that aisleway, we're on the left-hand side, just down the aisleway, and we're in the same spot every time. Two tables. It's me and Tony. Every time that we're there, and yes, we're trying to buy cards is what we're trying to do.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask you guys another question. And the reason I'm asking you guys this question is because I'm asking you about the importance of, like value, I guess, or importance of integrity and trust. And I know you guys work together, you're brothers. You guys can really trust each other. But you mentioned like Adam and somebody like that, being there, helping you at the national. You mentioned Jake earlier, which these are
Yeah.
people I'm familiar with and know. But you guys are mentioning that, and I'm gonna tell you guys a little story though, just like about the type of people that you guys are, or how I view you guys. I don't know if Tony even remembers this, but so whenever Chris Bryant was a big deal, so we're going back a few years, right? When he was like a rookie or whatever. I was selling wax. Now, you guys have known me for a number of years, and this would have been when the show that we're talking about at the fairgrounds in Hilliard, it was at the McCoy Center.
Yeah.
And so I was set up there, and it'd been a little bit of a slow week for me or whatever, but Tony came over and bought a box off me. It was Topps Chrome, and he hit a big Chris Bryant card. And when he did, he came back and was like, "Hey, thank you for selling me that box." Well, we're talking now years ago, and to be honest, like I probably needed that sale. Like it was like I needed that sale to get next week's stuff in. But when he came over and showed me that card and he's like, "Hey, thank you. I hit this big card." I said something like, "Thank you for supporting the little guy." Now, in my mind, you guys, having a 15-year head start in this hobby, we're kind of like legends, to me. And you're like, I'm like, "Thank you for supporting the little guy." And Tony's like, "We're all little guys in this hobby. I don't know what you're talking about," kind of thing. And, that's the kind of thing, like, that was very encouraging to me at a time where I was pulling off maybe $300-400 a month in this hobby. This is way before COVID and all that. And so that kind of thing was encouraging to me. And I know that when you guys come to shows, people are waiting for you and people are looking to deal with you. So obviously you've built a name that can be trusted. So what do you think the value of integrity and trust is for the guys that are involved with you, and just the way you represent yourself in the hobby?
Go ahead, Tone.
Let me take this real quick, Bart. Well, I'll be honest with you, Rob. I think that we make friends. We don't make customers, and we it's not a client business relationship for us. We want to be friends with the people Now, obviously, not everybody knows us,
Mhm.
but the people that do know us, I think that most of them would speak kindly of us. There's some people who are not going to be happy. They don't get happy when anyone gets something they don't get.
Mhm.
I mean, plain and simple. Me and Bart, for the life of us, can never understand that,
Mhm.
because we really feel like we're happy for anybody that gets good stuff. You
Mhm.
know, in any way you get it. We don't have to get it to feel happy, and we never begrudge another dealer or collector.
Mhm.
You know, for example, we have people that used to sell us cards that are now setting up and dealing cards. We
Mhm.
have people that we used to give, you know, really good discounts to when they would buy from us, that would never give us a discount. Period. I mean, but it's always, like I said, we've always wanted to be friends, and we're not. Everything is not that kind of transactional for us.
Yeah, I mean, the transaction happens because we try to be honest and forthright. So if we know something has a value, right, and they're way below the value, I don't want to take advantage of that. If I know that person now, if I'm just walking around the show and I look in a showcase and I see a sticker and I go, hey, I'll take that. I don't feel quite as obligated to that person, but to the same extent, I I do in a way, because I'm trying. I want to. If I want to form a relationship with them, I can't take advantage of them. We never get upset or mad. I don't know if you remember, there was a guy that used to set up your shows, Frank, and he was
Oh.
sold us every week. I mean, every week, right? And there was one time where he sold us some stuff and he thought he undersold it, because he got some input from some other people that said, well, Bart and Tony, they bought that from you and then they sold it here for this, right?
Mhm.
And the reality is, I told Frank, I said, yeah, the route I spent like $3,000 with you, and yeah, I've got $1,000 back, but I'm out $2,000, man. And I'm not trying to take advantage of you, and I would rather you not sell me another card
Mhm.
and us keep our friendship than me buy more cards from you and you feel like I'm taking advantage of you because I have money, right? And that's what
Mhm.
you want. That's not the way I approach any transaction whatsoever. Things that I don't hold value, I would more than glad give to other guys.
Mhm.
Guys that collect Yankees, I give them
And we
Yankees
do,
cards. Huh?
and we do. We give
Yeah.
away quite a few
Mhm.
cards to our friends. You know,
Yeah. Supplies. Use
at one
supplies.
point, Rod,
We
in
don't
about
use used supplies.
1987, in 1987, we gave all of our close friends a Michael Jordan rookie, a Larry Bird, Magic Johnson rookie.
So,
But
guys, I was
integrity
just
is
gonna
everything, Rob.
what?
It is. I mean, if you don't have that, you shouldn't be dealing with people, and you shouldn't, you should not. No one should ever feel like they've been gotten advantage of. So,
We have yet to have anybody, though, that sold us a card that we lost money on ever said, "Hey, let me give you a little bit of that money back."
Um, so what would you guys say is your bread and butter in the hobby? I think you kind of touched on this a little bit, but where do you guys focus? Um, what are you actually looking for versus, as you described earlier, you'll just kind of take?
what we're looking for, we're focused on trying to find mid-modern inserts and singles, numbered cards from that era, and in the rare, more rare the better. So the rubies, the credentials, the um,
The Fleer
precious
Ultra
metal
case hits.
gems. Yeah, case hits, Fluor Altar case hits, things like that. But even more so, like the goats. So we're always buying Jordan, we're always buying LeBron, we're always buying Tom Brady at any price level. It doesn't matter if it's a dollar card or it's a $5,000 card. We try to stay away from the $25,000-$30,000 cards individually. And again, not that we wouldn't buy them, but we're being very cautious about it, because that market, if it shifts on you by 10%, you could really get upside down on something pretty quick, right?
Yeah.
On a huge investment. But for the most part, our sweet spot's $500 sale price and under. And again, in volume, we'll probably have 100,000 $1 cards at the National. We'll probably have more than that in quarter cards, and we'll probably have, I want to say, 15 or 20,000 value box cards, maybe more. You know, and that fills up one of the booths, and then the other booth is for the showcase cards. So
Did one of these an interview, and kind of the whole focus of this last interview I did, one of the points I wanted to bring out for them anyway was the fact that they had just recently went full time in this hobby. So I kind of wanted to hear your guys' thoughts, because my understanding is there's never really been a time that you quit your day jobs completely to do this hobby. And so I kind of wanted to know, how did you guys decide to not do that? Did you ever have dreams of owning a shop,
no,
completely on your own, all that kind of thing? Or
no.
has
I
it
mean,
Everybody
I've
has
always
worked.
dreams.
worked out for you?
Go ahead,
Everybody has
Tony.
dreams of it in a hobby, but the problem is, you have families. You've got kids you've got to take care of. We both have been very fortunate to have good enough jobs. And we've seen enough of it to know. Yeah, is there huge money floating around? There always has been. But the problem is being able to buy it. And there's many more dealers today than there ever were.
Mhm.
Virtually everybody now is a dealer. I would say the dealers outnumber the collectors 2 to 1, 3 to 1.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah, and
know,
I don't know. I mean, I can't. I don't know exactly how many shops we've bought, but we've bought several shops, and we just go in and clean them out, all the inventory, reprocess it through our processing, and then sell off all the fixtures and all that stuff. We our day jobs are always good to us, and we always I enjoyed my job. Tony enjoyed his job until he retired a few years ago. But it not that it wouldn't have been lucrative enough for us to go that route. It's just
Mhm.
I don't know if we would have lost our love for the hobby by making it a business, a brick and mortar business. Then you have commitments that you can't vary on.
Mhm.
Whereas when it's not, if we don't want to sell a card this week, we don't have to. If we don't want
Yes.
to sell a card next week, we don't have to. But if you don't sell wax boxes this week or next week, you could be in real trouble, right? So,
Yeah.
and then to Tony mentioned, I mean, even when you started your shop, there was
Mhm.
what, 3, 4 in Central Ohio? Now there's what, 12, 8, 11,
Yeah.
12. So,
Mhm.
I mean, there's even another one just down the road from you in Chillicothe that who would have
Yeah.
thought, right? So,
Yeah.
so everybody's got those aspirations. And again, it turns back to the denominations have changed. The money is different now. Um,
Mhm.
Probably the margins are pretty close, in most cases, but the denomination changes. So therefore the overall, sell through value is a lot higher. Yeah. But we just never really wanted to get tied down to a brick and mortar store. It was
Mhm.
always a lot more fun for us just to hang out and go to shows and walk around the show, buy a whole bunch of cards, and then go home. After we go eat somewhere, of course. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are known for buzzing out of shows to go grab food, yes.
yeah,
I I agree with that, I don't blame you. But no, I'll comment on what you were just saying. There are so many people that are trying to go full time, and they wanna open shops, and they wanna do those things, and it's kind of under the idea they wanna leave their real job so they'll be free. But especially if you understand what's going on, behind the scenes now with fanatics and stuff like that, you're not free. It's harder to get away and go take your vacation. If you guys wanted to skip 3 shows in a row, you could. And you're right. Tops is going to pull $20,000 out of my account this week. I need to sell some stuff so that that can continually happen throughout the summer, which traditionally slows down. So there's an idea of freedom would happen, but you work twice as hard sometimes in a business than you do, just having your day job, especially if you enjoy what you're doing and that sort of thing. So it's been for you guys, just a nice supplemental income and a lot less pressure than if you'd have tried to kind of do it full time. So,
yeah.
but yeah, do you guys have any final things you want to say before we wrap this
Yeah,
up?
I mean, a lot of the new dealers now, they advertise that they're working on 10% margins and 20% margins. And that's just to me, it's unrealistic to be sustainable at that level unless you're doing a high volume of business. I mean,
Yeah.
again, if you're doing, $100,000 a week and you're making 10%, that's fine. That's $10,000 a week. That's a lot of money, you know.
Yeah.
But not a lot of guys are doing $100,000 a week. They're doing
Yeah.
$1,000 a week and they're making 10, 15%. And, you know, you look at
Mhm.
some of these guys that I coach a few dealers, guys that enter into the dealing space. A local shop that opened several years ago, I worked with them a lot. And it's basically, you have to hold your margins in order to be able to stay liquid with capital. And you have to have capital if you're going to move forward. So you can't run up your credit bills and then hope that you can pay those at the end with another credit bill.
Mhm.
So there's dealers though that do that. They take things on consignment, or they take things on credit, and they pay little as they go. And they have their business model. We have ours. Our
Mhm.
business model is we like to buy cards, we like to sell cards, and we've been doing it for 40 some years. So it's been a blessing to us.
Yeah.
Yes. And we've, like I said, we've made some great connections. I mean, just fantastic people we've met through this hobby. You
People
know,
we call friends, like you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then there's people that are just acquaintances that we see all the time, and we're just acquaintances with them. But
yeah.
I don't know that I really have anybody that I'm an enemy with. Like, oh, I would never deal with that guy, or I would never even talk to that guy. But for the most part, everybody is we're just people, man, and we're trying to all get along, right? So
Mhm.
And as much as
Yeah.
we are brothers, we are very different people when you meet us in person. I mean, very
Yeah.
different. And everybody tells us that, so
yeah, I'm good looking, and he's Tony.
yeah, there you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yes. Yeah, I would agree that, yeah, you guys are different people. A lot of people, would agree with that too. But
Rob, there's only
yeah, I
one
want to
year in
thank.
our age difference. There's 1 year in
Oh,
our age difference, yes.
Yeah,
that's
So,
cool.
but
Yeah.
we're old.
Well, no, I mean, it's weird. Anybody that wasn't here in COVID is referred to, if you started prior to COVID, you're kind of referred to as an old head by all the Zion case kids. So, it's it is what it is. But I think we're wiser, not really older. That's how I try to look at it. But yeah, well, I thank you guys for being on here. I appreciate it. And like most of the time, we'll chit chat and see each other. But like at the Columbus show, you're across the aisle and we'll pass each other. But this was great. This was good getting to sit down and hear a little bit more about you guys, about your story. And I appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us.
no problem, man. Anytime you need something, you just let us know.
Yep. Just reach out. You know that. If you
Yep,
need
yep.
tables
Yeah.
set up, I'm your guy. I can whip up
Okay.
tables.
Yeah, and that's true. Yeah, I don't know how many times at Southway you guys step in and help. I appreciate that.